Real quick, we had some truly weird technical difficulties on this episode. If you're new to the show, I assure you we don't normally sound like this. Please accept our apologies. On with the show.
Hug clowns. That's the point of this movie.
Yeah.
Hug clowns.
If you hug them, it takes away their power.
Yeah. And their pistols.
I don't know how to talk about this movie, man.
I'm a bit stunned.
We've seen Joker. We're gonna have a spoiler-filled review. I'm David C. Robertson. This is my co-host, Jason Goss.
Hello.
And you are listening to DC On Screen, the podcast that covers the DC Comics multiverse on film and television, gives honest opinions on projects, upcoming and past, and believes that every version of a property is valid, even if we really don't want it to be. If it has been released, it is fair game. Beware of spoilers. Welcome to the show. All right, so yeah, man, we saw the Joker. We saw Joker, and that was some heavy shit, man.
That was some heavy shit.
Like, it's gonna probably take a couple of viewings for me to really.
Yeah, I part of me wants more time to digest it, but we'll have it. We'll have more time.
We will. We're already planning a second episode, but this is just gonna be like first thoughts, initial thoughts on this thing. And if we don't have the opinion you want, give us time. We might change our mind.
Just come back again.
And that's not an indicator of any damn thing, really.
I mean, just to start, I'll say that was intense, and I think in the good way.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's not an enjoyable experience in the sense that you're going to you're not going to walk away with happy feelings from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's some real fun shit happening on screen, and it also doesn't feel like when Phillips and company were saying before it's not going to be like a regular comic book movie.
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some hints. They underplayed a couple things they did, but it's not a regular comic book movie.
No.
This feels like an art house movie where they just stole the idea of the Joker and put it into...
That is exactly the way it sounds. I feel like Todd Phillips is maybe a genius for that, if for nothing else.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he totally just said, I want to explore this.
Mm-hmm. Fuck the rest of it.
What is an IP that's really recognizable that I could attach to this so people will actually watch it or it could actually get made?
Yeah.
But for what it's worth, he did a good job with it.
Oh, yeah. It was a solid film. I mean, solid piece of filmmaking. I don't know what does and doesn't win at Venice, blah, 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 here and there. I don't keep up with movies enough to know that. I really don't. I do know it was a solid fucking film.
It was pretty good.
A lot of heart into that thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Forgive me. I was just a little bit bored. At certain points, I'm just like, oh, okay, dude, I don't need to see 3 more minutes of him slowly dancing. I get it. But
I don't think that was dancing.
What do you think it was?
Tai Chi.
It did look like Tai Chi, didn't it?
It did, and I say that because it's one of the alternative treatments for anxiety.
Oh, that's good.
Every time he did it, he was experiencing extreme anxiety.
Yeah, but then certain times he was dancing.
Yeah, certain times he was just straight ahead.
Yeah.
The only scene in the film that actually did bore me, was the actual, the one shot of the movie with him doing the arms up and everything. That scene of him kind of dancing down the steps is really the only one that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
It was the titular scene, I guess.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because I got the point of it. I mean, he's liberated in his own way, and he's just nothing left to lose, as he puts it later, and all that. I get the point of the scene. I just, after a while, I was like, all right, well, we've been watching him dance down these steps for a second now.
Yeah. Now, yeah, I did think at certain points, that looks like some sort of, martial art or something that he was doing.
I do think it was Tai Chi.
And,
Tai Chi based.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's great that you know that. I mean, you're a psychology major. I'm not.
They don't teach that shit in psychology.
Oh, where'd you learn it?
Just from the world.
Oh, from the world.
Yeah.
The dirty old world.
Yeah. It's weird. Psychology major, they don't actually teach you treatments as much as they just kind of treat you like disorders.
That doesn't seem logical.
No, well, yeah, it doesn't. But then, like, to actually practice psychology, you need to go to school for another 3 or 4 years. So then they teach you treatment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They don't want you treating anyone.
Yeah. If you're an actual psychology major, you know just enough to be dangerous. Which is right where I am.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, let's talk about Joaquin. I think he did a great job.
I knocked it out of the park.
I think he killed it.
Just, Jesus Christ, that was good. Actually, at work the other day, somebody said, like, oh, you're going to see the Joker? Oh, I'm sorry. They said, like, oh, you're going to see Johnny Cash play the Joker? I was like, yeah. You say that now.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the teasers and the trailers. When we're done with this film, you're going to be like,
hey, remember when the Joker was Johnny Cash?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did a really great job. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of people saying like, oh, well, I mean, he did a good job, but he didn't, bypass X actor. Usually Heath Ledger's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But,
Ledger became the high water mark, and I get it. He did a great job.
Well, it's a completely different character. Mm-hmm. They weren't going for the same thing.
And it has been every time they've done the Joker. Mm-hmm. Somebody has done a different take on him every single time. Burton. Mm-hmm. And, whoever you want to say directed the 66 and episodes and Ledger.
I just say Bill Dozier because it was his show.
Yeah, Dozier's. Yeah. They all went for a very different thing, and so did Todd Phillips. Mm-hmm. And they found a very different note, and they played the shit out of that note.
I really like because there are scenes in this movie, whole segments of it that we almost nonchalantly find out are not real.
Yeah.
And I dug that, and I really liked what they specifically showed us was not real, and I liked that there were a couple of things that they kind of left up to question.
Oh yeah.
I like that.
The ending of the movie alone, you don't know what part of it actually transpired. I
assume he killed that social worker he was talking to because he was walking bloody footsteps. Uh-huh. Or dancing bloody footsteps. Uh-huh.
But you have no reason to know for sure at any stretch. Mm-hmm. Like, for me, the entire movie, after the conversation where he says, I have nothing but negative thoughts, mm-hmm. or all I have are negative thoughts, mm-hmm. If I told you that in reality, after that conversation with his therapist, with the social worker, he was actually committed, and the entire thing happened in his head, and then the first kill he ever had was that social worker, mm-hmm. The other Arkham Hospital, I don't know, worker, whatever.
Yeah.
You got nothing. You could not argue me out of that. There's no reason to prove that, no way to prove that's not true. Whole portions of the movie happened in his head.
I mean, I think I could pretty, I think he killed De Niro on live television.
Necessarily. Because De Niro earlier was a fantasy that he did when he was doing the Illusions of Grandeur.
They watched him do it on live television.
Yeah, but again, the first time he was on that, it was a delusion of grandeur. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to think that the entire thing, him being on live television, the riots after...
So the whole movie could really just be
could literally have been in his head, a joke he told himself while he was in that fucking room, in the White Room later.
Yeah, what do you think the joke was at the end that the doctor didn't get? It flashes specifically to young Wayne over his parents in the alley.
I'm torn because I think there are a lot of interpretations, which makes me really like this movie. Like on one hand, it could be that he finally figured out kind of the killing joke. Mm-hmm. This nothing really matters and people get what they deserve kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that could be the joke for him, where he tells the well-adjusted person with a good job, you wouldn't get it, Mm-hmm. It could also be way more DC skewed, where the joke was, ha ha ha, after all this, the city's savior died in an alley. My not real dad, the guy that my mom was delusional for. The guy that had everything in his hand. Reminds me really of the reason John Lennon was killed. Mark David Chapman said, when he saw a picture of John Lennon in a magazine, he said, that's the guy who has the world on a string. And I think that's the phrase. The world on a string? Is that the phrase? Mm-hmm. Anyway. So that was why he started, fantasizing about killing John Lennon. Was that moment where he had that thought. And that could be the joke. And if that's the case, it gets very DC-centric, where the whole joke of the movie is, I created a monster. Where the monster in this case is Batman.
Right.
Could also be that the joke of the movie is, well, what if? What if all this happened and you wouldn't really get it, and then he just kind of goes off the leash later.
See, my initial thought was that the joke was that he robbed potentially his brother of the thing that he always had, which was a father.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe the joke in that case is that he had a terrible, if everything happened, and I would lean definitely into the everything that we saw happen category. Like, if you ask me for what I think happened in this movie, everything happened, and then he also killed the lady at the end.
Yeah.
That was...
Did he kill Zazie Beetz?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
she did.
Yeah. That's what I felt like. After he was back he stormed down the hall and he was in the apartment. We saw the ambulance. Yeah.
Like, I think she's dead.
Yeah.
With any luck, her daughter's okay. But she didn't make it.
Yeah.
I don't think she made it. But yeah, like, that could also be the joke is like, even though my parental figures, or my father figures in this case, they make it a point to point out that, Penny's, or his stepfathers or whatever, the boyfriends, the guys in his life were pieces of shit that left him literally tied to a radiator.
Yeah.
And, she was kind of terrible. She sounds like a bit of an enabler, kind of, one of those people that goes into Fantasyland instead of facing what's happening to the people around her that she's responsible for.
Uh-huh.
It's a real thing that happens. I mean, responsible for a lot right there. Could be that the joke is, haha, my parents were terrible, but I got them longer than you did.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they gone.
Right.
A lot of interpretation of this movie, which I think is a strength.
Yeah, I agree. Did you feel like as a comedy fan, did you feel like you wanted to hear more of his jokes to kind of, like, I'm like craning my neck trying to read his notebook. I'm like, I want to see what he thinks is a joke.
I do want still shots of that later. The moments that they framed, that they, like, I hope my death makes more sense than my life and stuff like that. Or then, like, I love the stuff that's, like, almost an anti-joke. The stuff that he writes down that he thinks is funny. Like, I'm gonna butcher this phrasing, but mental illness, one of the problems with mental illness is people expect you to act like you don't have it or something like that. That's a real problem.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Like, it's a real issue, and one of the parts of the quirks of this kind of character that I enjoyed was he thought that was funny. There's no fucking joke there. Like,
yeah.
I did really dig that over the course of the film, he never really tells at any point a good joke.
Yeah.
All of them. Even up to the what's his name? Richard Murray?
Yeah.
Even up to the Robert De Niro scenes, like when he's actually got the world at his disposal, he still doesn't land a joke anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I really dug that. Like, I would love to see still frames of the actual Notebook.
And people will probably judge me on this, so let's dive in. The funniest thing that Joker did in the entire movie, was when he told the one guy, after he killed his coworker, and he tells the other guy, you can go, and as he's like starts to pass him, he's like, "Rah!"
Yeah.
Dude, like, I laughed, and the guy next to me was like, oh.
Fuck you, dude. That was funny. That was a good bit.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the entire part of that scene. Like,
yeah, I wanted him to kill that dude. I was rooting for it. Like, I feel bad.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, that guy betrays him.
Yeah. Everybody in the movie treated him like shit.
Yeah. He's more anti than hero.
And I don't condone the violence and all of, not in real world.
There's a lot of disclaimers, sure, but yeah, he was a mistreated figure for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So later when he actually like offs that guy, you're like, oh, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he lets that guy go. Like, what?
You were always good to me.
The part that actually cracked me up about that scene wasn't so much the like, rawr. Mm-hmm. That part, I get that it was funny, but I didn't laugh at the time because I was kind of so enthralled with the scene and the way Joaquin was playing it that I was, even that little rawr, I thought was like an insight into how he was dealing with reality now. Like, no, I'm a killer now. Like, I'm over the other side. We're into a land where the normal rules of, I've abandoned the social contract. Leviathan can fuck itself. Thomas Hobbes can go to hell. We're in the other place now.
Uh-huh.
I was kind of dealing with that. And, what actually did crack me up was when the guy tries to leave and he can't reach the a lot.
That was really funny too.
and he kind of comes over and helps the guy out, like, "You're always good to me, man. Get out of here."
Yeah. And he,
get on now.
I love the way Joaquin, like, when he looked up and realized what was happening.
That part made me laugh.
And he just sort of like,
that's a little bit funny. Like,
yeah,
that
he just
actually
like,
cracked me up.
Shit. I'm sorry, man. I forgot.
My bad. I forgot about that.
I forgot. All right.
That part was the one part of the entire movie that probably made me laugh. Actually, the only other thing that made me laugh was when, for just a moment, we think he has that moment with Domino, whatever her real name is.
Zazie Beetz.
Zazie Beetz. We think he has that moment with her where he's actually suave for half a damn second.
Uh-huh.
Something about, like, I thought you were going to rob that bank. I'm like, I'm kind of gone. I mean, I can come back tomorrow. That was actually a good line.
Uh-huh.
And it made sense later that the one damn thing he said that I thought was funny the entire fucking movie was in his head.
Yeah.
A complete, like, schizoidal delusion.
Yeah. I
just made up.
When did you clue in that they were not in an actual relationship and that part was in his head?
When she was at the hospital.
To me, we clued in when he, like, walked up to her door, knocked on the door, and, like, just started making out with her.
No.
I was just like, oh, that's not real.
Part of me at that point, I thought, well, I mean, you know, there's the sex and violence correlation. Like, he might have just had that moment where he was...
But I just didn't think the relationship was there.
He just, you know, was emboldened and he went and, you know, grabbed the young lass kind of thing. Like the pictures of people making out on V-Day, you know, like,
right,
showed up in Watchmen and such. Yeah, I thought it could have been that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, really, I don't know what it says about me, but when she was at the hospital, I was like, yeah, no, that's not real. They fucked like one time and they went on one date. She's not at the hospital. There's no fucking way.
I mean, narratively, I feel like the hospital wouldn't have made sense if we hadn't gotten the opening to the screw sesh. But,
I mean, if she had suddenly been there without that, I would have been off board before, but I made it all the way that far with the screw sesh.
Yeah. I just didn't buy it.
Term? I hope it becomes the term. Screw sesh.
I've never heard it before. It just popped into my head and I said it because, I'm a little bit of an idiot savant sometimes. I'm not a smart person, but every once in a while I can just come up with a weird turn of phrase and it never quite catches on, but it makes me really happy.
It made me really happy. You
Yeah.
shared that with me.
Yeah.
The screw sesh. I like it.
Screw sesh, Schrodinger's Clark.
Yeah.
Those are...
I mean, you could have said before the, you know, Netflix and chilled, but no. Screw sesh.
Yeah. I wanted to come up with something kind of original.
Yeah. I don't know why it struck me. I like it.
Did you think he was going to kill himself on the show?
Yep.
That's what I thought.
I mean, well, I'll take that back.
I struggled with it.
They were pushing so hard that he was.
Mm-hmm.
The only real debate I was having was whether he was going to kill himself and him, or just kill himself. And then he went the other way with it, where he just killed him.
Once he started pretending that he was going to shoot himself in the head,
yeah.
I got a very strong sense, and I was wrong. Mm-hmm. I got a strong sense that they were going to go sort of a Gotham route, and that he was going to kill himself on television live, and that one of these, you know, people running around in clown masks or whatever were going to, like, see that, and they were going to show it, like, trigger something in him. Or maybe a kid or something, so who's around the same age as Bruce. I thought, like, maybe they're going to do, like, a legacy thing.
They could have. And we should go back to the suicidal ideation, because that was a huge theme. But now that you bring up Gotham, I kind of thought somewhere during the movie, about 60% through or whatever, once, as he put it, people are starting to see me now, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of my first thoughts was like, no, this is what they wanted to do on Gotham. Instead, Cameron Monaghan was so compelling as an actor that they didn't have to go through with it.
Yeah.
But, because they could just keep asking him to come up with the new version of the proto-Joker that they wanted to do.
That's a really nice way of looking at it, because as soon as you started to say that, I thought, oh, Cameron was the crutch. Like, they leaned on him too much.
I mean, I would say
they
crutch
did.
Or leaned on him, and they did lean on him, but, also, let's give him credit for recognizing talent.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think they were in an unwinnable position. They cast well too early. Yeah. And they were like, why would we piss off like
why would
1 million people who are actually listening? Yeah. The 1 million people who are watching this show really want him, damn it.
4 million. 3.5 by the time they were done. I think 3 at the lowest.
I don't know about all that now. I think you're being a little optimistic.
I think it dipped into the twos. It never got to the ones, but I think by the end they were back in the high threes. But yeah, for sure. They had that guy, and I only hesitate. The crutch phrasing only hesitate because they did bring him in. They had the foresight. They had the vision. They did put themselves in a corner because once they brought him in and let him do his thing, he was so fucking good. Mm-hmm. But they also had an idea for a story where they wanted to have like a legacy kind of situation. And I think Joker did that better in 2 hours than they pulled off the entire time.
I agree.
And they kind of a little bit abandoned the legacy thing, and turned it into more like not so much a legacy, like he was affecting the whole city, as much as he affected, himself, the other variations of himself, and then at the end his brother. Yeah. So they still found a way to tell like a really compelling Joker story. Like Cameron Monaghan's Joker is fantastic. That's maybe the best part of that entire series.
Between him and Oswald, yeah.
Between him and Oswald, it's Joker Penguin. Well, fuck, they really came out of that one. But like the idea that there's this underlying, the social worker called it tense. He called it it's crazy out there, whatever. But an underlying tension, like this, and it did. It had like this, especially when there were all these, all the articles on the ground about like, they were striking outside of the opera, or not opera. Was it opera?
It was the theater. Yeah. It was Modern Times. Yeah. I thought you were talking about the theater where they got killed.
No. That was, Zorro again.
Yeah.
But
Zorro's gay blade.
Yeah. I didn't understand the gay blade part. I missed that reference entirely.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna have to explain that to me. That completely went over my head, whatever they were going for.
I mean, in the Frank Miller stuff, they said they were at Zorro. They were at a Zorro movie.
Yeah. That's been canon for a minute, was they were at a Zorro film. I just don't understand the gay blade thing.
I think
is that the type of a movie?
Yeah. I think so. Let me look that up. I'm pretty sure. And I think they were just going for whatever would be appropriate for the time, but,
let's see.
Yeah.
Right,
there it is.
Okay.
I thought that was the thing. 1981 feature film.
Wow. 81?
Yeah.
That's one of those where I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah.
That was a strange choice. And, I don't think Time has treated that title, very well.
I was alright with it. Dude, I loved everything about the style of this movie. Like, I even loved the old school Warner Brothers logo that came up at that was so really fantastic.
Yeah. Very nostalgic. Also, it actually did a really good job of giving you an expectation of what you should be seeing in the movie. Like, the movie was, in my mind, in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing you could tell me about this movie that wouldn't... I don't think there was anything anachronistic, that's the word I want. Mm-hmm. About the movie. I think it was set in the 80s. The style looked like it. It just looked like...
But like early 80s. And 81 fits, because it looked... he still had the 70s hair.
Yeah. It was definitely some 70s hair. The jacket was there. There was still like the archetype of the 80s Wall Street guy. That was what we were dealing with the entire time. Fucking the phone booths, all that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was very retro in that sense. And by retro, I mean like right when we were born.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how old some things were today. I was playing guitar earlier today. Uh-huh. I was literally I was playing a Beatles song and I was joking to myself. I was like, oh, this song's like 50 years old. And then the next song I accidentally started playing was a Stone Temple Pilots song, and then I got curious and looked down. I was like, oh, this song's fucking 25 years old.
Yeah. It's depressing.
Nah, I'm good with it.
All of that just depressed me more than this movie did.
I mean, the contemplation of your own mortality is a difficult pill to swallow, but...
It's not my mortality that bothers me. It's just, my age.
Yeah.
And then my mortality.
And then... kind of like it's not the fall that kills you, but the ground.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm sorry. You are wearing a shirt that says the times they are changing, so maybe
that's true.
Maybe that's what put it in my head.
Old Bob Dylan shirt, yeah.
Fucking love that song. Yeah, I don't know where we're going with that. Where were we going?
I don't know. Are you new to the show?
Well, I was hoping maybe you understood.
No, I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay. Well, on to the next thing.
Man, I was really happy to see De Niro die.
Yeah.
He was too much of a dick.
He was a jerk. I get it.
And when he calls him on it, when he's just like, no, you made fun of me on your show and then brought me on the show to make fun of me. No. Mm-mm.
You don't get a pass, buddy.
You don't get to walk out of here.
And I get, here's the thing that, you know, the kerfuffle before the movie about, it was going to be inciting in some way, and we talked about it before.
Yeah.
I get why, I get parts of why it was seen to be, like a movie that maybe was aggrandizing, it's the best way, how do I want to phrase this? Aggrandizing a kind of thinking that shouldn't be, not necessarily portrayed, it should definitely be portrayed, but at times it feels like it is aggrandizing a kind of, like a vengeful kind of, frame of thinking that, anyway. Hopefully all those words made some kind of sense. But I get why, like, it seems like it's kind of playing him up as a hero in a way that he's definitely not. And part of that had to do with, like when De Niro dies, or, like, he literally just goes on, like, this vengeful, he just goes fucking revolving his way through the fucking city about, like, or stabbing his way or whatever. Like, he kills a bunch of people that have fucked him off.
Yeah.
I get that that's a problem. It's also, like, in the phase of history, we're talking about, like, the Greek tragedies before were way worse than that. The Norse gods before that were way worse than that. And the history of mythology, and then the history of fiction following it, this is not fucking new.
Right.
Like, do you remember Kirk Douglas falling down?
Absolutely. It was Michael Douglas.
It was Michael Douglas.
But yes. Directed, by the way, by Joel Schumacher.
Really?
Of Batman and Robin.
And
Batman Forever.
But that entire fucking movie was just some dude getting some people that came before.
Oh yeah, dude. There was some, like, good psychology stuff there. Like, there was, like, a good little character study. But it was also, it scratched several of my itches that I didn't know I had, because it had this great character study. It was almost like the creation of a Batman villain.
Yeah.
But also, which is just my default. It's not because we're talking about Joker here.
Yeah.
That's just my default thought.
The Gotham,
I go to Batman or Star Trek, no matter what.
The Gotham villain canon is top notch.
But, it wasn't just that. It was, the fact that, like, it seemed like every, like, 10 pages of that movie was a video game. Like, he just, like, found more weapons. It was just like,
it was like Duke Nukem.
Yeah. Like, he killed a dude, take his weapons.
Yeah.
Oh, look, these guys were robbing a thing and a bag fell out. What is it? Weapons! Like, he's just, like, loading up, buddy.
Yes. Reload.
I like Falling Down so much.
The whole point of my very badly worded, little diatribe being, we've seen this before. And as,
God bless America.
As people who can understand that a film is a film and digest things appropriately and not do the two things that the media apparently was worried about was, one, suicidal ideation, which you can argue for sure that this movie did a lot to kind of draw out how that happens. Like how someone walks themselves casually over to a point where suicide doesn't seem like that unreal of an idea. Because if you ask the average person, hey, how would you kill yourself? It's a fantasy.
Yeah.
But people who actually do it, it's like, it's not like you just snap and do it sometime. I mean, that does happen for sure. But often it's just like casually sidestepping over to a spot where you're like, oh, I didn't know I was going to be comfortable next to the ledge. And then suddenly I found myself here, and that one last step doesn't seem so crazy.
I'll be honest, man. You know, I think, and last week I would have said this is bullshit. Yesterday I would have said this is bullshit. But I believe it's true.
Having seen it?
Having seen this movie, I think I don't know who. I don't want to outright say Disney, or I don't even want to contemplate. I don't even know how to contemplate that it would be that big of a deal to them. I feel like somebody started this bullshit because there are so many movies. It's like all these critics saying like, I think this is going to be too big of a movie. We can't have this come out. We can't have this is going to incite a bunch of people. Like, okay, well, you watch a friggin' Bobcat Goldthwait movie where it happens and you all talk about how great he is. You're sucking his dick all over the place. But it's a DC movie and all of a sudden it's going to cause some shit.
Well,
and I will admit, and my wife said this to me as well on the way back home. And we both agreed, like, every movement that anybody in that theater made, we were staring at them and going, is this it? Like, every time anybody got up, like, one of the ushers came in and, like, walked real slow across the front and, like, went to the exit and touched the handle and came back and was doing some weird movements with his hand. I was kind of freaking out, dude. And it was at, like, the apex moment where he's, like, screaming at De Niro.
Oh.
And I was just like...
I was on the other side. I didn't see that.
I'm like, oh, shit. He's motioning for... It's time. It's time.
We're gonna die here. Yeah.
I think the media did... caused me to dislike the movie or at least have a bad experience at the movie because I was thinking about like shit going down.
I mean, legitimately,
she did too. So
I get it. I mean, I thought it sounded like kind of overreactive stuff to begin with.
Absolutely. This movie though is tame compared to some other stuff I've seen, violence wise. Even ideologically, like when you link, strong messages of violence with ideologies, eat the rich, all that shit. Like we've seen stronger shit in other movies, like more violent.
I think Boondock Saints is way worse.
Yeah.
Personally. It's been a minute, but the way I remember the Boondock Saints movies, it was like, if God gives you, credence to do, or, the path to do so, kill whoever you fucking see fit to kill. Like, it was weird. That movie didn't make sense to me then. It doesn't make sense to me now. Like, it was.
I love that movie.
It was good action, but.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's not about the action. Like, I mean, you can, with that movie, I kind of feel like.
That movie felt like the Old Testament personified, in a way.
So does Punisher.
Or like a Leviticus the movie, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like, so does Punisher. Like.
Yeah.
I just because he doesn't mention God, I mean.
Well, I mean, originally Punisher goes after the mob, and then he expands his scope after finding out he's really good at it.
Yeah. What Boondock Saints is missing is, a dude in a mask running up and going, this isn't the way.
I mean, the thing that people are going to point out is different, I think, about the movie is that it does, and it really does a great job with mental illness. Mm-hmm. Like, the whole time I was sitting there watching it thinking like, man, I don't watch enough movies, but for damn sure, this is doing a great job of talking about like specifically in, being someone who's been on medication many times and currently am. Mm-hmm. Being someone who's been told at one time or another, like, yeah, we're not gonna give you this medication anymore. Like, when she makes it clear that he's not getting his medication, the look on his face, I kind of thought, yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
That fucking sucks. Cause like the whole time they're telling you, you need this, this is how you need to go. And then suddenly they're like, well, it's not going that way anymore. What the fuck were we doing the entire time before? You said I needed this shit. I was just barely okay. And then I was slightly better. And now you're telling me I can't have it? Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's a panicky, fucking frightening feeling. I get it. But yeah, like the thing I think people are going to point out about the movie is that the revenge plot and the disaffected, the maladjusted, if you will, the abhumans, the whatever you want to call it, like the people who are just to the left or right of functional, normal, happy.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are going to tell you if you watch this movie, like, oh, it's going to embolden these people, they're going to take ridiculous actions. I had this guess about the movie going in, and now that I've seen it, I still stand by it. This is not a movie that should inspire you to be afraid of those people. This is a movie that should inspire you to fucking be kind to other people.
Yeah.
Like, he says, before he kills his mom, I've never been happy for 1 minute of my entire fucking life. Something like that.
Yeah.
Like, what if that one moment had happened where it fucking, like, one person was kind to this motherfucker at any given goddamn moment? Whole thing could have changed.
And I was so frustrated when he was on that show and he didn't say, look, they were drunk and they were attacking me.
Actually, yeah, part of me wanted him to justify his actions, and the other part of me was like, no, I get what they're going for here.
But what I kind of like, and part of me wonders, honestly, if Warner Brothers didn't start that as a marketing campaign for it.
Oh,
the whole
backlash?
whole.
I don't think you have to. I really don't.
Because if you think about it, the movie does the same thing. The movie does what the critics did. The movie, like what they do in
him and then
watches him. Yes, anyway. But like the people inside of the movie take his actions on the subway and start turning it into a political movement. And as he says on the late night show, I'm not political.
No. Like, does he say like do I look like the kind of clown that could start a movement or something like that?
Yeah.
I get that.
But everyone's like, oh, the rich did this, and certain elements of the story point to that too, but it's not just the rich. It's everybody like the first people we see treat him poorly are a bunch of poor kids who like ran up and like knocked a sign out of his hand and took it from him and then beat the shit out of him.
Yeah. And he even explains their action as like, it's just some kids.
Yeah.
Like and he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth there, because on the one hand, he's like, things are getting crazier out there to his social worker therapist, and the other hand, he's like, well, it's just some kids. And that shit's gonna get a little weird. Yeah. And then his buddy escalates the situation.
Another poor person.
Another poor working fucker. Escalates it into a gunplay kind of situation.
Yeah. It's like every person in this movie is guilty. Everyone treats him like shit. The poor people on the bus.
There is not a single retrievable, justifiable human in this entire fucking story. Yeah. The entire movie, every single person there is not fucking making it to Hallelujah, man. Like, everyone's an asshole or a sinner of some kind.
But
it gets rough.
While we're looking at, while we have all these critics going like, oh, this is a commentary about... Dude, I think they're saying the opposite. I think this is like every person treats people with mental illness like shit. Yeah. Like, maybe not every individual, but like from every tier of society, from every caste, if you will. Yeah, I think that I really dug that.
No, the fact that like the reason it's a great commentary on mental illness in general is because this fucking movie, like, and I did like that Todd Phillips, or him and Joaquin had the idea that like, we're not going to let him be diagnosable. I don't want him to just be manic depressive. I don't want him to just be a major depressive. I don't want him to just be schizoidal, whatever. We don't want him to be diagnosable. I want him to represent, and I think what they were going for a little bit was I want him to be relatable to kind of
several things. Yeah.
And what it amounted to was, like, to me, the movie, it comes across later as like, I get why people are worried about like the gunplay, the suicidal ideation, how someone could watch the movie and feel like inspired or emboldened to do something stupid. I get why there's that idea, but realistically, I think it brings to bear something that you have to consider that's way beyond the scope of a movie is, mental illness, not treated well. Yeah. Like, people who aren't different are not treated particularly well. Like I said before, how he phrases it, like, what is it, like, the crazy thing about mental illness is people expect you to act like you don't want to work. Yeah. There isn't. The crazy part is, like, when you actually have somebody that's close to you in your life, generally, from what I've seen in my life, when there's somebody that's actually close to a person that has a mental illness, you tend to accept it and move on with that person because you know that person. Generally.
I tried to.
Thank you.
And thank you.
But generally, people tend to adapt to other fucking humans and accept whatever's going on there.
Yeah.
When it's a stranger, you don't have that same instinct.
Right.
And this movie tends to point out when it's a stranger, maybe you need to pay fucking more attention.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's the time you should actually give a shit. Like, there's a lot more for me to take away from this movie.
You heard what Jason said. The movie says to neglect the people you love in lieu of strangers with mental illness. That's what you said.
Absolutely. You should stand on the street corner and hug people. Not even the worst idea I've ever had.
Especially if it looks like they might have a knife.
Just go. Hug clowns. That's the point of this movie. Yeah. Hug clowns.
If you hug them, it takes away their power.
And their pistols. They can't come out of the sewers if you hug them enough. They won't fit.
Oh, gosh. I'm writing down that time.
Why?
Because we need an opening.
I'll take the time to pour a quick drink. A quick small. Christian was working the other day. You came home like this? I did. I didn't realize the second was coming.
I told you, man. All right, so I think we got the gist of what the mental illness portion of the movie was, as far as like the message. Would you agree?
Takeaway, but that's again our first look, and I would like more time to digest what's happening.
Which we'll get deeper into it.
We will.
I have a question though. What do you actually think was real? Do you think that he actually was Thomas Wayne's son, based on the photo at the end with the note from Thomas on the back of her photo? Or do you think it not matters? I
kind of do. And I kind of liked that addition, that it'll be an older Joker in their version of the DC canon. Like, part of me really wishes this was the beginning of a DC franchise.
It might be.
I mean, it's gonna make some serious fucking money. Like, it's gonna pass 100 million over the next 7 days.
They've already upped their tracking to over 90 million for the weekend.
Yeah. Not to mention whatever it's made before private screenings. Like, it's going to make serious money.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind this being the beginning of a franchise at all. Because I enjoyed this look at the Joker as an entity, maybe as much as I've ever loved anything that has to do with the Joker. Like, this was, the width and breadth of this exploration is heretofore unforeseen. Like, it's...
Well, shit, that belongs on a poster.
This was special. I've never had so much time to relate to him. Or to hate him, whatever I was going to do with him. I've never had that much time with him. And they didn't waste really any time. In the couple hours I was in there, I was fucking, I got to know this Joker really well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see what happens later. But I'd love to see also the addition of the Kevin Smith spoke to the will kind of thing. Or spoke to the will. Anyway,
Kevin Smith spoke to the wheel.
He used to say like he added a spoke to the wheel kind of. Like,
yeah. They added a spoke to the wheel.
Yeah.
But the way you said it, it sounds like he's
spoke about a wheel.
No, spoke to the wheel. It sounds literally like it sounds like
chatting at
Moses at the burning bush or some shit. But it's like Kevin Smith talking to a wheel. Yeah.
That's pretty much what would happen if you put him in a Transformers movie and let him write it. Him talking to Bumblebee in the car the entire time. 90 minutes of him chatting at it. But the spoke they added where potentially he is actually Bruce's brother, and where potentially also it's somebody that frightened him as a kid, showed up at the perimeter of his estate as a child.
Mm-hmm.
The visage of the movement he inspired, having shot his parents. That's a fucking great backstory for the Joker.
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis Batman. Like if that got mounted at any point, I'm on board.
Yeah, I think I would be.
Also, I have to admit, and they said it in the bathroom scene, like, Joaquin, Arthur says, like, look at us. They actually really did look the same.
They did.
They were really well cast.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
you think Thomas Wayne was ever actually Alec Baldwin?
I think for a second they probably wanted to.
Yeah.
I think maybe for a second they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if, based on my memory of the reports, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they wanted Alec Baldwin to kind of maybe have more of a Trumpish feel to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then that at some point they pulled back and said, no, let's do a different, less timely and topical kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me if also Alec didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
They just backed out of the whole thing.
Like, well, the amount of controversy that it caused when they were talking about him playing a Trump-like character.
Yeah.
I think he was like, I don't need this shit. I don't want to do this.
I would probably back out. You didn't need it to tell your story.
No, you didn't. And I liked that there was some ambiguity there, honestly. Mm-hmm. I liked that we weren't really sure how bad of a guy Thomas Wayne was. Because you're right. The stuff that he said on television about everybody, all these poor people being clowns who didn't make anything of their lives, that could have been Arthur just imagining it.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing how much of this movie could have been in his head.
And now I want to see it again.
Like, the entire movie realistically could be 15 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
If everything he imagined post that first conversation was just a joke he told himself, you know. And part of the movie kind of leads you to think that because it's crazy. Like, the riots happen, the clowns are suddenly there, all of this is going on. He's got the two boogeymen detectives trying to chase him. He evades them for some reason. Like, it's fantastical.
And we never did.
That far. And he gets this weird resurrection scene on the hood of a police car that he's supposed to be fucking going to jail in. Like,
you remember?
By the way, the Heath Ledger callback on the...
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Do you remember the scene? They never went back to it. Uh-huh. The first scene that he's talking to his social worker at the beginning of the movie, she mentions him being in the asylum. Uh-huh. And she says, have you given any more thought to what caused you to be there in the first place? And they never went back to it. Later on, he acts like he's never been in an asylum before when he's talking to dude from Atlanta.
Yeah. It was a dude from Atlanta, wasn't it?
Yeah. Paperboy.
When he's talking to Clerk. Paperboy. He, at the time, though, that still made sense because he was also asking... I can justify that, though. Because when he asks, he says, like, what does it take for someone to get put in here? Uh-huh. He is ostensibly asking about his mom. Mm-hmm. But he could also be asking, because, as you put it before, he still didn't know why he was there. He may have been asking that random clerk, what gets a person in here, still not understanding himself well enough to know why.
But they never told us why he was in there.
No.
They never go back to it.
They're all we're sure about is that he has definitely a very involved printer ink drying history of mental illness and several headbanging incidents, which is always worrisome to me because every time I see it, I'm like, I'm not British enough to think that doesn't hurt. Yeah. That shit looks like it hurts.
Yeah. But, he could have been in the asylum the whole time, really.
The entire time. Nothing stopped
him. Oh my gosh.
True. I think there are multiple interpretations of what actually happened in the course of this film.
He could have just heard about the Waynes getting killed on television, man.
Oh, yeah. Literally, the entire thing about the Waynes in general could have been Thomas Wayne is an influential figure in town who's maybe going to run for mayor. Last thing he knew about that we knew about that was also true. Next thing you know, it's his mom is, an ex-lover of his. He's their child. He goes to visit them and roughs up not Alfred, we'll call him.
I think he was Alfred.
I don't think I actually said Alfred.
They never said Alfred.
For it, but yeah,
I think they cast him as Alfred and said he was Alfred when they cast him.
Did they? Good.
I think so. But
it's clearly Alfred.
Oh yeah, it's totally Alfred.
Yeah, it's totally Alfred. All of that could have been just a thing that he drummed up. Every last bit of it. Especially like when you get to the very end and it's like a couple of guys that are in the clown riot, which, god damn it, I love that term. I'm now in love with clown riot as a term.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck in my own stupid thing.
What were you doing?
I was thinking about how the guy that played Alfred was kind of thicker than most Alfreds that we see, and
Thick boy Alfred?
I thought Alfred Butterworth.
That's pretty good. Alfred Butterworth. Alfred Nickelworth. Yeah, I'm not proud. I'm going to go back to clown riot, which is still a phrase I love. Mm-hmm. So in the clown riot, there's the two. He's being taken to jail. Happens to be struck by an ambulance that's driven by the two clowns. They happen to see him and pull him out, like Jesus figure almost style. Pull him out, let him there, and then again, I'm still calling it the resurrection. Like it's this very kind of holy looking scene of him rising, and there's like get up, and all that. So they play him out very messianically.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that too.
But that could all be in his head. Like it's so big.
Yeah, it could be
and fantastic. It could definitely be in his head.
Yeah, I was thinking about his story being like a reverse Jesus story, and instead of because one of the cool things about
just call that Lucifer.
Well, no, because like one of the cool things about the Jesus story is that it wasn't just like the Jews that condemned him; it was also the Gentiles, the Romans, right?
Oh, yeah. Everybody voted.
So in the same way, it was the rich and the poor who condemned Arthur Fleck.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because you have the poor kids represented at the beginning, like the proletariat early on. Mm-hmm. Steals his sign. He has to pay for the sign, for God's sake.
Poor bastard.
I mean,
Yeah,
It's the kind of thing that if you were a well-adjusted person, you would still be talking about how you had to pay for that fucking sign years later. You took a beating in an alley and all that. If you were well-adjusted, you would still be telling that at parties.
Yeah.
As a crazy anecdote, you know?
Yeah.
And then you're right, like Thomas Wayne condemns him as well. Literally punches him in the face. Like the bourgeois and the bourgeoisie and the proletariat are both telling him to go fuck himself. And then the crazy part was there was a very Marxist feel to the film to me. Where it did, I mean, especially with like the fuck the rich headlines and all that, and the Thomas Wayne can help us if he chooses to and all that. Like there was a part of me where you were thinking earlier conspiratorially that Disney had some effect on the media. On the media, the outlets surrounding this movie, you know? My conspiratorial mind was going toward like, I don't know if it was Disney. I think it may just be rich people that were not happy about this movie.
Well, no matter who.
The people in charge with actual pocketbooks were just not happy about the tone of this movie at all.
Yeah, no matter what group it was, I think we can agree it was the rich. But,
You know what actually cracked me up watching the movie? At some point about 70-80% through the movie, somewhere in the last third, the third act, or I don't know how many acts, I haven't broken it down, but you know what I mean. Somewhere during that, I kind of thought Bernie would love this movie. There's a part of me that thought, like, I know he's campaigning, but I hope he takes about 2 hours. And
I don't think he's campaigning right now.
Oh, he's campaigning right now.
No.
What?
No, he's not. He had a heart attack. He's taken off.
No, I saw that. He's still raising money.
Well, they said he was taken off in the article I read.
He's making phone calls. That bastard's not going to the ground until he's fucking in the ground.
He's feeling the burn.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, there are a lot of philosophies you can bring into this movie. A lot of like, I mean, I want to digest the movie. I want to watch it more, but it's one of those movies where like my educational background is a psychology and a philosophy degree. I fucking love this movie in that sense.
Yeah. See,
There's a lot I can play with.
I was a little concerned, like, as I was watching it, I was like noting the things they're not going to wrap up, and I'm like, Jason don't like when things don't wrap up. He says it's a cop-out. So I was kind of preparing myself for you to just be like, you know, this is bullshit.
No. I've definitely gone that way at times, and I hope I'm not contradicting myself to say this, but, and you know, let me know if I am. I'm open to it. I'm a human. Shit happens all the fucking time, like on the daily. But this movie told a story. I just think there are also interpretations.
No, sure, yeah.
Like the story it told me was for sure all of these things happened. Like the only part of this movie that was imagined, like in the major narrative, I guess, was you're gonna have to say her name again. I'm sorry, Dominoes.
Oh, Zazie Beetz.
Thank you. And I don't remember her name from the film, so I can't just use her character name.
I don't know that they named her.
Girl Arthur's stalking.
She certainly wasn't Harley Quinn.
No.
You dipshits.
Although she had a vibe for a second.
She did.
If this movie continues into a series where we see Joaquin go on, like, she's going to be maybe the template mentally that we remember as, like, oh, yeah, he found a Harley. Because, you know, well, you killed 3 pricks, there's only 1 million left to go.
If they did a sequel, I would love it if, like, he just imagined that Batman was real. If Batman was always a figment of his imagination. Wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be fun is, like, at the end of the second film, if there was another scene where he's back in the asylum, and you have another moment where you're like, did he just kill one guard, or did that entire fucking movie not happen?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I strongly suspect there will be a sequel.
Could have been just, all of this happened, he kills the guy on live TV, he goes to the closest thing to prison that he's eligible for, which is some white version of Arkham, and then kills the lady there and dances in her blood as he, you know, goes down which, by the way, I love the shot of the footprint, the blood footprints getting weaker and weaker as he works it off his shoes and stuff. Awesome. Fucking awesome last scene. God, visually, this film was amazing.
It was everything I was missing from The Last Jedi. I'm just kidding. I only say it because Luke Skywalker in the final fight didn't have footprints.
Oh, nice. Good catch. I didn't catch that.
That was the big red flag. He's not there, y'all.
Yeah, that would have been a good call. That would have been a good call if you were, what's his name? Kylo?
Yeah, Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren?
Yeah.
Would have made a good call if you were him.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we just threw an entire fucking arsenal at him and he just flicks it off his shoulder.
Yep.
That was actually a good moment.
I like that movie. I'm sorry.
Forgive us.
Oh, wait. No. I don't ask forgiveness. I'm not sorry. I think The Last Jedi was my favorite Star Wars movie so far.
I'm not sure. I kind of want to go back and watch them all before I get to the Last Skywalker.
I'll give it to you this way. I'm not willing to go back and watch them all because I have not enjoyed most of them.
See, I haven't seen the original since I was about 12.
I mean, I've seen them a few times.
Literally one viewing, and I think I was 12 years old.
Like, to me, it's worth it to go back and watch, like, choice scenes.
And I was sick, and he was like, you need to watch these while you're sick. And I was
like,
I have strep throat anyway. Fuck it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Like, it's
7 hours. Let's do this.
It's worth it to go back and look at choice scenes throughout the trilogy and be like, that was a good moment. But, you know.
I think I remember maybe more. I honestly probably remember more about those films as a result of Spaced talking about those films.
Mm-hmm.
Simon Pegg alone has probably reminded me more of those films than I remember the original 3.
That's
probably a real thing.
Mm-hmm. One day I will go back and watch them all and like.
I think I want to go back if I can before I see this last one.
With an open mind.
The latest one, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Do it. Maybe we'll do it together and do like a Patreon thing.
We'll try. We'll fail.
I'm like, this is sounding less and less likely. All right, what else do we have? Do you have anything else, really?
Hospital scene with I liked his clown shtick.
His clown shtick?
Yeah, like Joaquin as a clown.
Mm-hmm.
Decent clown. Okay. I mean, if I was going to a sick ward, and I saw that clown performing, I'd think that guy's putting in his fucking best. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. I was trying to think of like a good instance. Like we saw him twirling a sign. What else do we see? Oh, there was the 2 seconds before the gun fell out of his pants. Several seconds. I forget which song it was, but he was it's the clap, stomp, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember that old fucking fairy tale. Actually, my favorite part of that scene, this kind of made me smirk a little bit. I didn't laugh, but it was a smirk. When he does kick the gun out, and he runs over there and grabs it real quick, and then he just kind of puts it back in his thing, and like the one girl who sees him get it kind of gives him the big clownish. Yeah, that was actually pretty fun. Yeah, he stayed in character, which I loved. It reminded me of I can't remember where I heard this. I want to say it was Conan, but it was an old story about. It was a story about one of the old fucking comedians, like one of the 40s and 50s kind of guys, and it was a guy who would do like mime work, work on a. So the story was the guy was working on. I want to say it was Mel Brooks who actually said this one. Anyway, he was talking about somebody though that he'd watched, and it was like an exercise where it was like try to open a jar, that old improv kind of thing. You're like. Mime opening a jar, and you make it as funny as you can. And at the end of the bit, the guy actually did open the jar and put the lid down triumphantly and held up the jar. And apparently the instructor just kind of moved on and was like, "All right, we're doing the next bit." And without thinking about it, I forget I really wish I knew who he was talking about. Without thinking about it, though, the guy shrugged his shoulders, reached down and grabbed the fake jar lid and put it back on and put the jar down, and went to the next bit. That was not necessary. But it was a really great example of staying in character. Yeah. I don't know. For some reason that reminded me of it when he was... he's fucking kicked a gun across a children's hospital floor. Yeah. The big clownish finger of the mouth kind of thing. Yeah. I enjoyed that. And then 2 minutes less than 2 minutes later, we're watching him smash the telephone booth with his head. Yeah, that was great. This movie will not let you have a damn moment. You're gonna stay on the mat the entire fucking time. I think my wife was actually right. I made her watch the trailer for this movie this morning. I told you, she said why would I ever watch that? It looks really sad. And I'm gonna have to go home and tell her you should never watch this movie. You were right. Yeah. This is not something you're gonna enjoy at all. Good call. Yeah. Good self-care there. I pretty much, I have a number of our listeners who have, messaged me and been like, "Hey man, I think you're really gonna like it. It's super depressing." And it's made me wonder, what am I giving off on this show?
I mean...
Overall, I think you like more thoughtful things.
Yeah. I do sympathize with...
You're not a big fan of spectacle.
No. I mean...
outlined that before.
Well, talking to Matt on the Star Trek cast, StarTrekUcast.com.
Sidebar.
Yeah. plug. Talking to him, I think I've pinpointed, it's not that I don't like spectacle, it's that I don't like spectacle without stakes.
That's fair.
So, like, at a certain point, like, you show me a Transformers movie, I don't care. I don't know what the action is, because I'm looking at what looks to be a bunch of machinery flying around itself and changing shape, and I can't tell the difference between the Transformers anyway. They don't look like my Transformers, where I could look at them and go, oh, those colors, that's Optimus.
Yeah. Red and blue. He looks like the Chevron sign. That's my boy.
Because, like, while they're standing there stationary talking, you see that, but then, like, when they're all changing and fighting and stuff, it just looks like,
big gray mess of...
Right. So, we've got that, like, I do get bored, like I'm sorry, that big final fight sequence in Man of Steel went on a little too long for me. It was just a little too much of that in a row. Like, I needed more breakups.
The part that stands out to me is, I think you do like an action scene for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I kind of mean, like, not colloquially for a minute. I think I kind of mean for a minute. Like, you have about that much attention span for an action scene, even when it's well earned.
Yeah.
Like, a really good, good guy's gotta fight the bad guy, like...
Mm-hmm.
We do a show called DC on Screen.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm sure you're aware that the premise of most of what we cover is good guy and bad guy fighting.
Yes.
Even when we've talked about comics, your favorite moments are for sure not the fights.
No, they're
your favorite
not.
moments are the character developments.
I like the character developments, and I like
when somebody takes a character and says, like, oh, okay, but this is his actual motivation. That's the moment where you're like, oh, dude, that's good. That's a really good design. I like that.
Yeah.
You like insightful moments. I get that. I really love those too. I also enjoy watching people punch each other for
right. Now, like, to me, that there is something to be said. Like, I feel like Avengers, the first Avengers movie, did it really well. Second Avengers movie, not so well. But
I had problems with that too.
Avengers, like that last, like, whatever it was, 20, 15 minutes, whatever it was, where it was just all out fighting the entire time. There were a lot of, like, little good, really good, insightful character moments of, like, within that fighting.
Getting built and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, even Hawkeye just over his shoulder shooting that guy.
Yeah.
Or moments later when he tries to shoot Loki and just grabs it out of the air and explodes, like, all of that was...
Even Hulk just, burning off rage and just punching the shit out of Thor for no reason.
Yeah, that was good. Or one of my favorite moments when, it's one of the great team building moments of the Marvel Universe is when they all come together for that big power shot.
Mm-hmm.
And Iron Man, like, the most egotistic fucker on this maybe in the entire Marvel Universe, has that moment where he's like, call it, Cap. Like, has that moment of humility of like, yeah, we're in battle mode and you need to be in charge.
Yep.
Call it, Cap. And then fucking he calls it, you do the perimeter, you do this, blah, 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 blah. Hulk, smash. Yep. They gave you that,
Yes.
That was big. It was really good.
Yep. So, I do tend to enjoy, it's a lot like what, you remember when Mark Maron was talking about how he doesn't like superhero movies? Mm-hmm. And he says, he was talking about how people who like superhero movies were like grown man babies or something like that.
Something like that.
And he says, I want to be like, I'm a real adult. I want to go to see a movie that I don't understand. Or something like that. It's
a really good, like, perfect Mark Maron kind of joke.
Yeah.
I'm a real adult. I want to go see movies with subtitles that I don't fucking get. Like,
yeah.
That would be his kind of thing.
Like, I want to walk out of that theater not knowing what happened.
Like, the same way he, in one of his bits, has his vinyl midlife crisis where he's like,
yes.
I want to understand Captain Beefheart. But, by the way, my big gripe from the movie is probably, like...
Not enough Maron?
Not enough Maron! Like,
not
no
enough Maron. Yeah.
Fucking no Maron.
He got cut, man. Or, I don't know if he got cut or if it was just such a tiny part.
Because he seemed to enjoy that part. When I heard him talking about it before, when he was talking about, like, dude, this is a real movie, they're doing real stuff, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he did just mean that, and Mark Maron is not a stranger to mental illness himself.
Yeah.
He may have just been excited to see a really good portrayal of what life's like on that side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed like he was more excited about his role in the movie, and then he was just fucking there for like 2 seconds. I mean, I swear he had 3 lines, and he was literally like a fade to the background focus shot. And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
I did consider though that, you know, he told a story about how he was talking to De Niro down the hall, and they were like, "You're coming in kind of hot." I'm wondering if like those scenes were just unusable.
Maybe.
Or I wonder if they.
It's possible, but he's really.
I do get this. I get the notion though that maybe they were in the editing going, "I like that scene," but like, there's no way Arthur could have seen that.
It is possible because the movie is very Arthur-centric.
It's very much from his point of view.
It is possible that they cut anything that didn't have to do with him. Because when you think about it, that movie, the entire fucking movie is Joaquin's either there or experiences it.
Mm-hmm. Which I think lends to the did it really happen notion of the entire thing. Which
is, as you point out, not something I would normally have a problem with. But it's kind of like how like Donnie Darko pissed me off.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't fucking know what happened in that movie. I mean, I watched it one time, and that was probably literally 18 years ago. But I remember coming away from that movie thinking, I don't know what just happened, and I don't think I'm supposed to know what just happened. Whereas this movie, I kind of walked away thinking, I know what I was told happened, and there are other things that might have happened, and that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference. I am open to there not being a difference, and anyone is welcome to yell at me.
Yeah.
I'll probably get yelled at about Donnie Darko. It's okay.
Oh. Well.
People really love that movie.
I enjoy it, but came to the realization, like Matt and I sat down a long time ago and tried to work it out, and it doesn't make sense.
Oh, you did the nuts and bolts and she's not there?
It's a really cool concept. Mm-hmm. The concept is the world is ending in a certain amount of days, but the truth of the matter is, especially when you look at the director's cut, the truth of the matter is they are in a tangent universe, a pocket universe that was not supposed to have been created. And that airplane engine that fell in the house was supposed to kill Donnie, and it didn't. So
I do remember that being the closest I ever got to it, is that was like a machination, and the best thing that could have happened, and the reason he laughs is because he was supposed to get killed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Now I'm talking myself out of like, maybe I need to go back and watch Donnie Darko, because I'm not sure there's that much damn difference.
Yeah. The director's cut does a cool thing where like in between certain acts, it shows you, or maybe not even acts, but like chapters maybe?
Interstitially tells you things.
They like bring up pertinent segments of, what's her face's, the old time travel nun.
Oh yeah.
Grandma Death. They bring up, pertinent segments of Grandma Death's, time journal book.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something.
It clues you in a little bit more about the world, but I'm not sure it makes sense. But yeah, watch it. We'll do a Patreon or something on it. I'm serious. Like, I enjoy talking about that shit. Like,
all right. Well, fair enough.
Matt and I've spent hours in it. I used to live with Matt, and Matt and I was, as much time as we would hang out drinking milk and talking about Batman, me and Matt would just sit around talking about time travel movies. Yeah. Like, no, Project Almanac did not make any sense. Here's why. Well, but number one, it said MTV Productions at the very beginning of the movie. That was the first clue that wasn't going to make sense. Bad sign. Yeah, he told me about that movie. It was well after
the makers of Joe's Apartment.
It was well after we lived together, but he was like, "Hey man, you want to go see this Project Almanac movie?" I was like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a time travel movie." I was like, "Absolutely, let's do it."
Of course.
So like, we go to see the Project Almanac, and we sit down. He's like, "Yeah, it just looks really cool. All the trailers. I haven't seen anything." And the first thing we see is like MTV Productions, and we both went, "Oh!" Like we both like groaned.
That's sad.
And it had some really cool moments, but it didn't make any sense. Like they abandoned their own rules pretty damn quickly.
Oh, that sucks.
It does.
Now, see, on the other hand, when I saw the Joker, first of all, I normally just see trailers for like I just don't have time. We watch too much television. I can't get out for regular movies. I only get to watch regular movies sometimes when I'm at home. I can't get out to do them anymore. Yeah. Also, baby. So I can't get out to see regular movies, and this was not a regular comic book movie. I enjoyed the trailers way more than I normally do.
Yeah.
I was excited about a couple of the films I saw.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, I enjoyed this movie more than, I don't know.
It's different. Like,
a lot of Marvel movies. In a lot of ways.
an entirely different genre.
It is.
Warner Brothers, Marvel entirely, like, we're DC on screen, this is what we cover, Joker's a DC character, all that, and it's still, this did not feel like something we normally cover at all.
No, it doesn't. And I think that might be I'm not saying that it's better or worse than any Marvel movie for real. I think I'm it's good to get something different.
Oh yeah, you need some flavor.
And I think the comic book movie genre really needed this. I think it needs more stuff like this.
I'm kind of wondering what it might do for the scope of things.
Yeah.
Because, this movie's gonna make a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's gonna do really well. I think it's gonna make it, I actually wouldn't be surprised. We're recording this at 5:51 right now on Saturday night, and I would be astounded if it hadn't already made its money.
Now, I know earlier I said that it was a little boring to me, but history shows the movies that I was a little bit bored by on the first watch wind up being
up a little bit for
they wind up being some of my favorite movies. I hated Life Aquatic the first 3 times I watched it. It's one of my favorite movies now.
Watched it one time, enjoyed it, and walked away.
Now, see, big blockbusters I watch, I'm really excited about, but then I sour over time. I'm like, it's just, why did they do that? They mentioned this and they never brought it back up.
I think this one has a lot of, like, subtle character choices. That's the fun part about this one, though, is it has a lot of really subtle choices about how Joaquin played him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has a lot of really pretty bold choices about where they went with the actual plot.
Yeah.
That I think are going to develop pretty well over time. I mean, I think I'm going to be happier about this movie than I was the first time I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty happy about it right now.
How did you feel about being wrong?
Well, which part of being wrong?
You were so certain. You were so certain they weren't going to do the Wayne deaths.
Oh, yeah.
See, I'm a little nuts because I was just like sitting there going like, show me them Wayne deaths. Make Jason wrong. Make Jason wrong. He was so certain.
I forgot I said that. But yeah, I was wrong.
I was like, oh, they're going to do it big too. It's going to be a big thing.
And they did it big and it was a big thing. And I've already actually talked about how I thought that was a really cool twist in the universe. So.
Yeah.
I forgot I was wrong about that, but I don't know.
I didn't.
I feel okay about being wrong.
Here's the terrible thing.
What I saw was pretty fun.
I have a terrible memory. I feel like a bad person for just holding that and remembering it like Jason was wrong. Like,
no,
I was just hoping and waiting.
No, you have a way better memory for what we've talked about than I do.
My memory is pretty shitty for the most part. I was just being...
I don't know if I'm like a bright spot or what.
I was just being petty.
I will constantly tell you about things like, you've already told me about that. Okay. and the only consolation I have is like every time this happens, I'm like, well, is this how I felt about it before? Like, that's the same opinion you had before. Okay. So I'm not a different person.
Yeah.
I just have a poor memory. My autobiographical memory is shit.
Dude, like, I mean, it's the thing we both do for sure. Because, like, I won't remember stuff I say. But, like, if I need to go back and listen to the show or whatever, someone said something to me online, and like, hey man, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. And pretty much, if you specifically reference anything that happened on DC on screen, it doesn't matter that we did it the day before. I don't know what you're talking about. While I'm at work, I am listening to the show, waiting to hear what the hell you're talking about.
No, I have to go back. About half the time, I have to go back and figure out what we were talking about.
But while I am listening to that, I'm hearing your responses and going, oh man, Dave, you should have said that. And then I will say that. And I will be like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
I went there. Good job.
And then there's another little nagging part of me is it's like, you're so predictable. You're such a basic bitch. Why would you say that?
You're allowed to be basic to yourself.
No.
If you were surprising yourself the entire time, you would literally have dissociative identity disorder.
Well, maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's what I need.
That would be a diagnosable thing.
I've become too predictable to myself, Jason.
If you were like going to take a spoonful of dinner and you willed it to your face and it was AAA batteries, you're like, well, I got myself again. Thought I was going to make mashed potatoes, but good job, Dave. Didn't see that coming.
It was batteries. But no, in much the same way, like, you will tell me a thing and make the same jokes in the same exact way.
I've done that.
And 5 minutes later, I can be like... I
literally used the same beat to tell you.
5 minutes later, I could be like...
I thought I was coming up with it for the first time.
And I could be like, Jason, what did you just say to me? You're like, shit, I don't know. Yeah. But then like a month later, you'll tell me the same thing verbatim. I'm like, what is this, a freaking rerun? What's happening here?
I think sometimes you look at me like, are you testing me?
Yeah, I think so. Like,
no, I'm genuinely just trying to do my best right now. What is going on?
If I didn't know your memory was so shitty, I would think you were just testing me to see if I listen. And then if it wasn't that, I would consider that perhaps you were just like, I don't know, really meticulously trying to keep up friendships by like calling people and just playing a recording of yourself talking.
Possible. I have lost friends that would probably have done a good job of keeping.
My wife is like, what are you doing? You're just sitting on the phone. I'm like, just listening to this tape of Jason.
I think he fucked up and sent me the same recording from last month, but I don't know, I'm just saying if there's anything new. 5 minutes go by. He just fucked up and sent me the same tape. He forgot to fucking switch the tapes, Bethany.
Yeah.
He forgot to fuck. That's how far apart Dave and I are now.
Yeah. Jason's decided that if I'm not going to listen to the pull list episodes, he's just going to like call me and play them for me.
That actually would be fun. I would kind of enjoy it.
Please don't do that.
No, I would kind of enjoy putting up a pull list episode that was just me saying, Dave, I know you're not listening. I'm just going to talk for a second. Tell you what, I'm going to read my favorite verses from the Gospel of John. And just every 3 words, Dave, I know you're not listening. And he for his second, Dave, I know you're not listening.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about right now? For now, on this first look, on this whatever.
Not that I can think of at the moment.
First impressions.
We're going to come back to it. And there's a lot I want to digest about the film.
All right.
Part of me gets a little bit of the suicidal ideation. Suicidal ideation. That's not a phrase I'm comfortable having fucked up. Suicidal ideations. The film does a really good job of portraying that little like sidestep I was talking about earlier. That's the one part where I'm like, I want more time with that. I want to think about this. I want to sleep on this, and I want to have a couple dreams about it, and really let my REM cycles sort this shit out. Like, they did a really good job with.
You sound like a damn hippie.
I know, fucking REM cycles.
I want to have a few dreams, man. He's like sitting here stroking his beard, and
I am.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna have a couple of dreams about it, man.
Yeah.
Somebody spoke and I fell into a dream, man.
And then I turned into a Maxwell's coffee commercial. Or Columbia House Coffee. Whatever fucking coffee. I don't know. The Beatles were hijacked. That's what I was saying.
By themselves.
Yeah. They, unfortunately, were not.
By themselves.
I loved hearing George later be like, well, we used to...
Maybe not in that instance.
We wrote these songs, we put them on the back of a slip of paper, and we bought them for millions of dollars. Yeah. It's a fair insight.
Do we have anything else on Joker?
On Joker?
Yeah.
Good movie.
Good movie. Go see it. If you haven't.
Everyone should see this movie.
You should have been listening to this entire review if you haven't.
Pull that out. But for sure, go see this movie. Be kind to people. God damn it.
You sound like Marin there. Is that why you brought a guitar to my house today? Because you want to play us out?
No.
Like Marin?
No, I would though. I want to play it. I bought a guitar like an hour ago and I want to play it. My big takeaway of the movie is shit can be weird for anybody. No matter how fucked up they are, be kind to them. Fucking have some sympathy, some compassion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all I had.
All right. Well, we're going to get it back.
Don't shoot anybody.
I wasn't going to.
You're sure?
I might shoot them with daggers from my eyes.
Oh, okay. You can cut eye people.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to come back. I might post it midweek or so.
Yeah.
We're going to do a separate episode getting a little more into the mental illness issues of Joker and with our friend Effie Oppelders of Stealing the Remote, which we'll be recording tomorrow. So, yeah, but let us know what you thought of this movie, and we might just feature some of your feedback in the next episode with Effie. So, go ahead and do that. And I don't know.
See you then.
See you then, and
be nice.
If you've enjoyed what you've heard here, patreon.com/DC on screen. It's fairly explanatory. There is a $1 tier and a $5 tier to get the show ad free. You can do the $1 tier if you want the show ad free, plus a bunch of other stuff like Jason talking about comics.
Us talking about Fleetwood Mac.
Us talking about Fleetwood Mac and 80s synth and all sorts of other bullshit. Marvel reviews. That's going to be $5 a month. So, we appreciate everybody who has supported us, be it through word of mouth, ratings and reviews on iTunes, or I guess this should say Apple Podcasts. They've discontinued iTunes.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm showing me age. All of those things. I know. What? I don't know. I don't know what I was saying. Sharing us on DC on screen, on Twitter or Facebook is always amazing. We've gotten a fair amount of that recently, which has been really uplifting and nice. It makes a bad day really a whole lot better. So all of those things
and more,
I guess. I don't know what the more is. I don't want to agree to that outright. I don't know what Jason's thinking specifically. And I feel a little uncomfortable because he's staring right at me. Again, I
was staring for you thinking about how I love the Warner Brothers logo again.
That was the old
that was honestly
late 70s, early 80s Warner Brothers logo.
It was very nostalgic for me.
Yeah, that was dope. I was like, go look at like the trailer for the original Westworld and you'll see what we're talking about.
Right.
Like, it's just like, oh no.
That's the moment where you knew where you were getting into something.
Yeah. So anyway, until next time, keep some DC on your screen.
Or whatever the fuck this one is. Keep that on your screen too.
You lost me. Our intro music is by Jason Goss and Michael Shackelford. Michael's band, Galactic Engineers of Magnetic Sounds, or GEMS, can be found on SoundCloud and Bandcamp. Visit DCOnScreen.com to find our Patreon, merch, contact information, and every episode of the show for free, including crossovers we've done with other podcasts. DC On Screen is a maladjusted production. For more from me and Jason, including sketch comedy, vlogs, parodies, and our improvised web series Hey Guy, visit maladjusted.tv.